All right, man. We are live. All right, Greg, you're back in the north. You're back in Michigan now.
I was in Michigan yesterday, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and
And then a tornado rolled in.
lots of rain up here in Onekama.
Yeah, we had a tornado rip through Kalamazoo area yesterday. Actually, one of our staff members, it went right through their backyard.
He said it was 80 degrees in Kalamazoo yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, we had sirens going off. We had sirens going off all last night. I think at like starting at like 10 o'clock at night. It was going for like an hour around here. Okay. So we wanted to talk today about a few things, right? We wanted to talk about things that we're seeing. We're hearing these words that are coming up. And depending on your market, and you'll see them more or less, but the word assumptions and then novations, and then we want to talk about fraud for a second too, because that is ramping up to a level. Um, it's through the roof right now, fraud, and honestly, we'll get into this, but AI is playing a huge role in fraud right now because of what scammers can do with
Oh,
AI now. It's unbelievable, and we'll get into it. But let's jump into the first topic here, Greg, which is I'm just gonna pull up my notes here. Let's
Novation.
talk about novations. So,
Okay.
Greg, what is a novation?
Well, a novation is somebody writes an offer on your listing, and without your approval,
Well,
those
no,
people.
the novation does require approval to transfer the contract.
Well, yeah, and so, but initially, what happens is that buyer that originally signed the buy-sell agreement has found another buyer to buy it for them, typically for more money.
So
And
you're a seller and you accept an offer on a property. You're like, cool, my house is sold, my property is sold, and then all of a sudden, a week later, they're like, hey, just so you know, I'm gonna sell my contract on your home to someone else.
and furthermore, I'm going to step out of that contract with you, and you can't hold me liable anymore. And you're just now going to work with this new buyer that I'm bringing you.
So you kind of like amend the contract or the
And,
original contract is kind of rewritten with this new buyer all of a sudden. So someone steps in, this person sells their purchase agreement with you for $1,000. Someone else steps in now, and then they might even find another buyer, and then they sell the contract again. We had a transaction out of Florida where there was like 5 or 6 novations on a single property
yep,
where the contract had been sold like 5 times.
right.
And this
So
poor seller's like, what's happening here?
So whether you're working with the seller or the buyer, you need to ask more questions. As a
And but Greg, why Novation? Let's discuss what Novation is and why people do it.
well, it's a very simple process for a middle person to walk away with a check and walk away without any liability and to make a quick 10, 15,
This is
$20,000.
kind of like a wholesaler maybe, where they step in, they write a bunch of offers on properties that are lowball offers. They get 3 of them accepted. Now they go trying to find new buyers for their contract, and then they sell that contract, never having to close on it, never having to do anything on it at all.
So here's what, when the paper that you gave me, it says novation agreement completely replaces the original buyer with a new buyer, requires seller consent, original contract is rewritten with the new party. That would be a novation, which is different than an assignment.
Okay, so that's a novation. So a novation is a brand new buyer. They totally replace the old buyer, and now we have an assignment. So talk about read to us what the assignment is.
The assignment says the buyer goes under contract, then sells their position to another buyer, but they never actually close on the property. When the closing happens, they just take out their portion.
So they're never really there's no new assignment of who the act it's sort of like they remain kind of in the contract, but they basically sell their rights.
So if the deal goes bad, that person on an assignment the first buyer in is still responsible. In a
Yep.
no, you're allowing the first person to escape, and you only now can hold the second party liable for anything
So
that happens.
both of these are examples of a word that you've been using a lot lately called arbitrage, where you see an underpriced property and you see an opportunity to resell it. You don't want to buy the property. You don't want to close on the property. You don't want to own the property, but you see there's money left on the table. So you step up and you find the money on the table, and then you remove the money from the table, and then you go into the sunset once you have a new buyer and the seller assigned. Now, these are both legal, but here's the thing that we see happening when the issue really is for the listing agent and the seller. Because most of the time, the listing agent and the seller are not very up to speed on what's actually happening here. They don't
Well,
really know what's going on when all of a sudden, like they think they just sold their property to a normal buyer, and all of a sudden, maybe there's an assignment taking place or a novation taking place, and they're feeling like, what's happening here? And everyone's a little bit confused. What's going on?
key difference is it says here an assignment equals the buyer sells their rights. Novation is the seller agrees to swap buyers entirely. And so what's happening is, so why are they doing this? And it's like, well, talk about walking away with 5, 10, 20, $30,000 or more, and you never had to close, you never had to pay transfer tax, you never had to pay commission, you never had to pay um, title insurance, you never had to pay anything. You just you take your check out and you connect the seller with that next buyer down the road.
Yeah, you're basically just a salesperson. So where this gets kind of messy is first off, usually a listing agent's like just kind of confused when these new documents start taking place. Like, what is going on here? Who are these? What's this? They're just don't as a listing agent, we don't always know what these things are because we're not dealing in that world all the time. The second
Well,
thing is when title starts getting pulled and they start seeing these things, it can really kind of mar up the the title insurance process because they're trying to figure out like, hold on a second here. Who is this person? This person? This person? Where is this? What's this? What's happening here? So we've seen that. We've seen it mess up title. The closings can get messy. Um, and then also sometimes there can be like an earnest money deposit issue. It's like, well, how there's five people involved in this innovation. Like, where'd their earnest money go?
right. Well, here's the key, Paul, that what agents have to do and have to understand first when they list a property is there anything in their purchase contract? And remember, we're involved in, 16 different associations and multiple MLSs. And so what each agent needs to do is to research their buy sell. And does it give the buyer the right to assign or to do a
Well,
novation?
a lot of contracts will have like an anti like inside of the listing contract or the purchase agreement, it will say things, and the listing contract will say like this cannot be assigned. But it's just missed and ignored all the time.
Yeah, like what we've always seen though, like everything else, I don't care what's in the listing agreement. If it doesn't end up on the purchase agreement, it doesn't matter. Like the original sales price and they negotiated a lower price. Well, guess what? You don't fall back to the listing agreement, you go to the purchase contract. So
Mhm.
you can't assume whatever's on the listing contract is going to be
Right,
trans.
because the purchase agreement is a brand new unique contract.
Yeah. So number one, you have to have a conversation with your seller and say, and generally it's going to happen if you've got a crisis situation where somebody's in trouble
Right.
financially.
So we should point that out real quickly here. These people who are writing these novations and assignments, they're not doing it in a transaction that's selling for market value,
Right.
right? Because there's no money to arbitrage. There's no arbitrage in the middle. There's no money on the table. So what you're saying here, well, I don't want to interrupt you too much here, is that you're dealing with people who are already probably in a financially strapped position, maybe a stressed position.
Yep. So let me read this real quick, Paul, and you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I just want to make sure we don't skip over anything here. Contract restrictions, it says most purchase agreements say not assignable without seller consent. Agents miss this all the time. So if you're on the buy side and you're working with somebody who's going to do this, you need to get permission in that contract to be able to assign.
Hmm.
The second thing is seller awareness. Seller thinks they're selling to John. Reality, John is flipping the contract to someone else for profit. That's a fiduciary and a disclosure issue. Appraisal and financing. Assigned deals can blow up on the appraisal, trigger lender concerns, and create title issues. And finally, earnest money risk. Who actually controls the deal? If it falls apart, who keeps the earnest money? Who's liable? It gets murky. Unlicensed activity, marketing contracts, selling deals, negotiating spreads. They can drift into acting like a broker without a license. Reputation risk, deals feel weird, non-transparent, over-engineered. That reflects on the agent, not just the investor. What what we just saw recently in one of these things is that somebody comes in, they list the property, you haven't met them, um, and your only contact has been over the phone, maybe. Well, the questions are, what is the due diligence that you should do when you get this phone call from somebody that you don't know and they want to list something and they want to move fast? Well, I think, I believe that you have some due diligence that you need to do. And so some of the things that we are learning here is that you can go to BSNA, and you can pull a search on that house and you can say, well, okay, so this agreement has got this signature on it, but yet when I'm looking here, there's a different name, which are
Hmm.
red flags, right? Or you said, Paul, you can go to Homebase and do the same thing on a property. Or you could say to this person, how about this? How about you send me a copy of your driver's license and then also send me a copy of a utility bill
So
or
here's the problem with all you're saying. Here's the problem with everything you're saying. Are we jumping into fraud now? Are we going full on in the fraud zone here?
well, it kind of leads in.
But we got, because novations and assignments are legal.
They are,
But then you have a fraud issue going on, which are unrelated to assignments and novations.
but the fraud is happening inside of these things is where I'm going.
But the fraud is okay, maybe. But I'm telling you, there's actual fraud taking place, like true scams. I think a novation is legal and an assignment is legal. So you want to jump into fraud now? We can. I just want to make sure because we have a whole section on fraud here. I want to make sure we're going down that path.
We'll go back up here then. Simple guidance for agents. Read the assignability clause in a contract. Understand it, know what it says. Number two, if there's an assignment or a novation, slow down, ask who is actually buying this property now.
Hmm.
Make sure the seller understands what's happening. If it feels off, if it feels janky, um, there's probably something off here. And so we are just, this is one of these things that's like, do we really have to talk about this stuff? Is this where we really need to spend time in real estate today? Shouldn't we be talking about going out and listing a property or finding a buyer or whatever? And instead, we're being forced to talk about things like this. Why? Because we're now seeing examples of it locally in multiple markets. And there are people out there that are doing some of these things that have no intention of ever buying or selling anything because they don't own it. They're like they're in a movie. They're
It's like trading stock. It's
yeah.
trading stocks. You lock up a stock, you buy an option on a stock, and then you sell an option on a stock. You buy an option on a stock, you sell an option on a stock. It's just like they're buying an option on a property and they sell it for more, right?
Okay,
And
so
then they walk away.
what do you think we need to talk about with novations and assignments than what we said?
Well, I just think you need to be aware, like if something starts to feel and smell wrong, like is this ever going to close? Because there's a novation. There's multiple novations, multiple assumptions. And I think also you should understand like where you run the risk in these assumptions and novations is a few things. One, if you're doing a deal with someone who's doing an assumption or novation, you're dealing with a seller who is absolutely up against the wall. They're in a poor financial position. They're trying to do a flash fire sale because the only person doing assumptions and novations is someone who can get extra money out of it by very easily marketing it to someone else. So they're seeing a moment where there's a gap, right? There's a financial gap there, and they're going to take the middle. They're going to find a buyer for that property, and they're going to take the middle. But what you need to be careful of if you're the listing agent, it's very obvious that when you've sold that property to an Novation or to a assumption type person that you've underpriced the home. Okay. You're selling it for a screaming deal and they see it and they're writing an offer on your property and they're going to flip it for more before they ever even take, they're never going to take ownership of the home. So what happens is what I would be cautious of is this. You sell that home on a novation sale or an assumption sale, right? And then grandma has a nephew that's smart enough to see what just happened here. Your realtor sold the home, then you had multiple people buying your house, but then reselling their contract and closing the house. That's your money, grandma. That's your money that those people just took off the table because your realtor underpriced your home.
Yep.
Why was there so much money on the table where someone could walk in with an assumption agreement or a novation agreement and without even having to list a home could make 20 or $30,000 in equity immediately. So you should be really I would be checking myself very fast if I was involved in that kind of a sale, and I would make sure that I'd be making sure my seller understands what's happening here. We likely undersold your home. We're likely undervalued.
So now you're getting into what I would call a strategy with a seller that maybe is not knowledgeable or is in a crisis. And so now it's like, all right, so what's the proper way to deal with these people? Is the proper way to like hold on, list it for 150,000 and sit there for a month and now they're in real trouble and now you dump it for 75 overnight?
So I
Or
think, yeah, I don't know.
or should the real estate agent have said strategically, let's go at this realistically, like to find the best offer. So we listed at 150 for a week to 2 weeks. We see what happens. Then we come down maybe to 130, maybe 135.
Yeah,
We
okay. So let's say
month.
you do that. Let's say that you negotiate with your seller and you go, hey, look, let's not throw this thing away. Let's not give the value away yet. Let's hold on. I know you've got a deadline. So there's gonna be some situations where you have a seller who's like, dude, I don't even want to list it. I don't even want to deal with this. Just get this thing sold as fast as humanly possible for me. I need out. Where you see this happening sometimes are if someone inherits a home, there's a death in a family, the home's a hoarder home. So there are going to be some cases where these things make sense, right? There's a whole industry around wholesaling. Which is what we're talking about basically. But you just want to make sure that you are educating, like you just said, disclose to your seller. Hey, look, I think we can get you more if we list on the MLS. Hey, I think we can get you more if X, Y, and Z. Ultimately, your seller gets to make the decision. But if you're not educating them and they can prove you didn't educate them and they can prove that you undersold this property, intentionally, maybe even, we have one right now where this very same thing happened, where an elderly woman got who maybe it's a case of elder abuse and fraud. Um, they believe that these people knowingly undersold this person's home, and this old woman was scammed out of equity and value, and there's a lawsuit probably coming for that property. So I would be cautious whenever you're underselling a home and you're the realtor involved. You need to disclose, and ultimately they get to make the decision. But if you disclose properly,
Yep. So let me add on to that real quickly, and then we can move into fraud, even though we're kind of crossed over already. But um, when you say disclose, there's two different things going on here. You can have a conversation and disclose, but that is not the same as putting something in writing.
yeah.
I'm encouraging every one of you, if you find yourself in one of these situations, you need to, in some way, document, memorialize this conversation where you were telling these people, look it, I've told you we can get more money if we put it on the market. I'm encouraging you not to dump it like this to anybody. Let me work on it to get you top dollar. And I've advised you to get an attorney. I've advised you to seek family members as a resource here to help you think this through.
Hmm.
And ultimately, even after all of my recommendations to go down, you want me to do something else. You are asking me to lower this price down to a number that we know is below market, and you want me to do that, right? And put it in writing and have them sign it, and you're memorializing this conversation. So you can talk about all sorts of things with people, but if you don't memorialize it, and we're in real estate, we're in written contract a world, and if it's not in writing, it does not exist.
Yeah.
So fraud.
So fraud. I think, and I'm hoping people make it through to this section here because this is a real one. Fraud right now has gone completely rampant. You can fake an ID, a deed, a bank statement with a single prompt. Hey, here's a real ID from Michigan. Please put my face on it and make it look like I snapped it from my cell phone in my car holding it in my hand like this, and then actually have a newspaper below with today's date on it. I mean, you can prompt these image generators to do anything right now, and they will create what you want. So what we're seeing is we're seeing IDs that are almost perfect, that are complete renderings. We're seeing people completely faking identities. We're seeing extremely high level wire fraud, where you're getting wiring instructions with true bank letterhead coming from real bank emails with real bank headshots with what look like real bank phone numbers. And we're seeing so much fraud, it's absolutely mind-boggling. I want to talk about this case just last week. We were calling it the Maryland case. So I want to tell you what happened here. It was a vacant land scam, okay? And people go, "What's the vacant land scam about?" So here's what happens about a vacant land scam. You call up a listing agent and you go, "Hey, I've got some land to sell. I need to get it gone quick. I was gonna build on it. We're moving out of state. I'm not gonna build on it anymore. I need it gone quick. I'm looking for a super fast cash sale. I think it's probably worth like 200,000, but let's list it at 100 and see what happens." And so the listing agent, and I can tell you right now, five-star realtors are getting these calls because I've been fielding these calls and we've been saying, and I'll tell you in a minute here. So of course, a listing agent goes, "Wonderful. Can we meet?" And you go, "Actually, I've already left the state, so I'm not in state, but I'd be happy to do a Zoom call with you, or I'd be happy to talk on the phone." Okay, cool. That builds trust. Then you list the property. And you're like, "Great, wonderful." They give you all the documents. They show all your information. They show you some whatever you want. They can produce for you. They give you all the stuff. Their name matches what's on the BSNA. Their photo matches the ID on the face, matches their driver's license they've shown you. They've shown you their bank statements, which also match the address, which matches their name, which matches their thing. They've shown you all a fake social security number. They've shown you whatever you want to see. They've shown it to you, and it's convincing. Okay, it's like a whole no problem, but no big deal. They're looking at you like me, and you're just talking like this, and they list the property. Offer comes in at $100,000 cash, close in 7 days. They go, "Wonderful, take it." And you're like, "Are you sure? Because I think I've got five more offers coming in." You go, "No, take it right now. I just want it sold. Take the offer." Right? So then they get the offer. Well, they're going to do a remote closing. So how is the title rep going to know that's not the actual seller? They've shown you their name, they've given you their face, they've shown you their driver's license, they've shown you they have a deed that says they own the home, they've given you all the right addresses. The only thing you haven't done is taken fingerprints. So then they close on this cash deal. They send you all the wiring instructions. Oh, their private attorney is going to take it. Here's the attorney's wiring instructions. And of course, it's a real attorney, real phone number, real address, just a scammers. The only thing that's the scam on that sheet of paper is the wiring instructions. And so you close, and they might even have the attorney give you a call. "Hey, so and so, I'm John with the attorney company. Yeah, no problem. I'll watch for the wire, no problem." And then you wire the $100,000 out. So here's what happened. I'll tell you what happened in this case in Maryland. So vacant lot in Maryland, $100,000 sale. Seller contacts agent, says they want to sell all cash, quick close, remote. Sounds pretty normal. Wealthy person wanting to get rid of some land. The seller wasn't the seller at all. The seller had stolen the real owner's identity. They got all the way to remote notarization. So check this out. On the live video call for the remote notarization with the title company, they're chatting with them on Zoom, and they have a deep fake face of the actual owner that they got off of Facebook. And they're like, it's like if I looked like Tiger Woods right now. You'd be like, "Oh, it looks like Tiger Woods." So they're wearing a deep fake AI mask of the actual owner, and notary couldn't tell. They were well into the process. There was thank goodness the title company had a verification tool built into their Zoom that was recording the video, and it's trying to find a scam, and it flagged anomalies in some little minor glitches on the person's face, and it flagged that there might be a deep fake. So it took but anyways, just to share this with you. So this actually happened. It was at the closing table, about to get the wire transfer. Everyone else, listing agent thought they were the real person, buyer agent thought the real person, title company thought the real person. The only thing that stopped it was an AI layer that was like, hey, that face, there's anomalies here that might be a deep fake. That person was about to get $100,000 wired to them. That happened just last week. So this isn't like, oh, go to BSNA and double check who the owner is. I can fake that name and that address and that face in 5 minutes with AI. So is it really, my question for you is, when our advice is go to BSNA and see if the name of the person you're talking to matches the owner. Like, we got to go to level two here. Of course the BSNA is going to match the owner's name because scams are getting more and more sophisticated. I think it's a good first step, but I think so now you think like, well, what do you do in this scenario, Paul? How do you catch something like this? Well, they're going to give you an attorney's phone number, and or they're going to give you a bank's phone number. And like, what I would suggest we do now with wires, which we're doing at our company right now, is we have wire fraud protection at Star Title, where we are actually testing the wiring instructions against known wiring instructions with reputable banks. We're verifying, yes, that is a bank-owned wiring instruction, and it is to this person at the banks. The bank will give us this information. So we're able to verify wiring instructions. And if that wiring instruction shows up as we cannot verify that as the actual person that we're discussing, like that owns that wiring instruction address, we will require speaking to someone at the bank at a known bank phone number. We will not call any, like for example, if I see a letterhead and it's like, oh yeah, here's the letter from my lender, that's their phone number. Well, I could just be sitting here with a fake number and pretend I'm the lender and talk to you and say, yeah, that's no problem. We're authorizing that. Yep, those are the correct wiring instructions. So you can't trust any number you see on anything anymore. You have to verify that's a known bank phone number for that actual bank. Because you could be calling it a scammer's phone number that's set up with a deep fake audio now. Does that make sense to you?
You're talking to me?
Talking to you. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So
So,
what I'm saying right now, guys, you cannot trust you're talking to the person you think you're talking to. You cannot trust an ID that's sent to you. You cannot trust a letterhead that was sent to you. You can never, I would tell you right now, never, ever trust wiring instructions that have been emailed to you.
yeah, let me go in a little different direction. So we had a deal a week or so ago, and it was a fraud deal, and the seller had somehow connected with this person online, and they got, in theory, they supposedly got them to sign over a power of attorney to this person. And then this person was using the power of attorney to sell the property. And so we get involved in this thing. It's like a week or 10 days away from a closing. And we got a call from somebody out of state that said, we think that this person is committing fraud and that these are not real notaries. So what you can do in this area, by the way, if you get a document that's notarized that's showing somebody has ownership, there's a place in every state that you can go check who the notaries are. You can call them up and you can say, did you notarize this document for these people? And
Hmm.
we did this, and the notary said, no, I did not notarize that document, even though their signature, their stamp,
Oh
everything was
yeah.
a
Yep.
doc for a power of attorney. And so it's like, holy cow, guys. It's just what we're really doing here is we're saying you don't sleepwalk this.
No.
To do some due diligence, we have to get smarter.
Here's
And
here's what the scammers know, and I'm going to be very transparent here. The scammers know that realtors get paid by commission. And we love listings. and we loved putting transactions together. And so oftentimes we will be so believing and trusting of the random stranger who just called us, who wants to list their property to us and have it sold overnight for cash, way under market value. Wow, how could this be? How could I be so lucky to have this easy commission land in my lap right now? And unfortunately, a lot of realtors in our industry will take any sort of a thing like that and go, oh my gosh, this is my lucky day. I can't wait to get this thing sold. Ooh, I knew all my social media marketing was going to work. I've got here, the leads are rolling in now. I've got these random strangers calling me to list their properties or, do these types of transactions. And so that we're susceptible because we want to earn an income. And so we have to, but when something doesn't smell right, you don't know this seller, you don't know this buyer. They call you, they're in a rush, things are urgent, things seem way too easy. Things seem way too like, wow, this is happening very fast.
Yep. No,
Stop.
yep. They said all scams share the same DNA. Urgency, need to move fast, out of the country, can't meet. Avoidance of in-person contact, they won't meet, won't video, or uses fake video. Communication control, everything via email or text. They try to isolate the agent, the title, and the lender. They don't like there to be crossover communication. Weird payment behavior, sudden wire changes, pressure to act quickly. So, simple rules to protect then are never trust wire instructions sent via email.
Never.
Always verify by phone using a known number, not the one in the email. Like Paul said earlier, whether it's a bank or whatever, go
Do
online.
not, yeah, don't take the number that they're telling you their lender right here on their phone as the real lender's number. If they're showing you a bank, look the bank up. Get the number from Google. Go to the bank's website, call that number. Um, do what you can to find them out. And like if I'm just telling you right now, have your guards up. Have your antenna out, do your due diligence. Just last week, we have an agent calling me, been like, Paul, I've got these buyers on my $1.5 million listing. They're super excited about it. They want to do a Zoom call with me tomorrow. And I'm like, have you met them? She's like, nope, they're not, they're out of state. And I'm like, have they been to the home? Like, no, they haven't been to the home yet. But they really want to meet you on Zoom. Interesting. Well, there's also Zoom scams where they try to get information from you. They try to information harvest from you. They try to get access to your computer. So be cautious. In fact, an MLS just sent out an email about buyers setting up Zoom meetings with you and me because they're going to use the Zoom features to try to steal things from you. So you need to be skeptical. If someone calls you that you don't know, it wasn't referred to you, and it's just like this magical like buyer or a magical seller found you on the great World Wide Web out of 1.3 million realtors. You're the one they decided to call with this wonderful opportunity they have. You know, just be skeptical. Be skeptical, be defensive. I remember my grandpa, Ralph, your father, um, God bless him. He used to call us and be like, so I got this email, and apparently this guy has a bunch of money that might be in my name randomly. And if I send him $5,000, he's going to unlock $100,000 for me. It was the
Yeah,
Nigerian scam, right? It was that whole that what they call the Nigeria scam, where they would dangle this carrot, and then you'd buy in, you'd give them some money, and then they'd flee. We
yeah,
as humans are susceptible to things that seem too good to be true.
yep, yep. So, anyways, assignments and novations are not illegal. They're easy to misuse and easy to screw up. And the key is disclosure, and the key is memorializing that conversation. Fraud isn't rare anymore. It's organized, intentional, and it's targeting real estate specifically. The AI tools that make our jobs easier are making their jobs easier.
Yeah.
Deal feels overly complicated, avoids normal process, or pushes speed over clarity. That's exactly where the risk lives. So please, 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 if you have a question, you feel something, call us. Talk to the deal doctors and the broker support team are becoming educated in these areas because they're coming across it more often than you are as an agent. And we're seeing it. And it's kind of stunning in a way, but it's like that. It's like you can't believe your lying eyes, right? And
I, the tools today are far too juicy for these scammers to not use them, and they're going to be the best at it. They're going to be really really good at convincing you and me. They have voice modulation now where they can sound like you and me. They have face modulation where they can look like you and me. They can make fake IDs, fake bank statements, fake records. It's the matter of a couple of prompts to an image generation software, and they have whatever they want, and they can convince you of it.
yep. So, well, hey, if you have any questions on this, please email us, and we will answer those. And we hope that what we've done here today is not to scare the pants off you, so to speak, but the idea is that um, we
Just
need
to
you to
make you
we
aware of
need
it.
you to
Just
be aware. We need you to
yeah.
be self-aware, be conscious, be um, you know, ask more questions, seek clarity. If you aren't clear on something, don't move forward. Hold off until you get the clarity that you believe you need.
Yep.
And don't for a minute think that you're just ignorant. You're probably sensing something that's wrong, and don't ignore your senses when you are, having one of these moments, these nano moments where you're feeling something is off.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so that's the encouragement of the day, to be diligent. The last thing you want to do is find yourself involved in one of these things, and having to unravel it is not easy. So, hey, let's move forward. Let's sell houses. Let's go get listings, and but just be careful. So
Yep.
that's
All
it.
right.
All right, everybody. See
Catch
ya.
you later. See ya.
Yeah.